I was looking up somebody. Somebody sent me a link. I guess this guy. His name is. You probably heard of him. His name is Andrija Mohorovic.
Yeah, the Mohodiscontinuity.
Yeah, I guess it's named after him.
Yeah.
Was what was this like a official like rubber stamp to say that they just found out about it? Something. This guy.
I didn't get what you said there.
Oh, what when he came out and he discovered this? What was just like? Was it just like an official? Just like acting like he just found out about it when they really knew about it for.
They don't tell you what his role in the discovery really was. How do you find a moho discontinuity? Um, the explanation they give
Mhm.
is that radio waves or different signals, audio type signals, can be projected through the earth.
Mhm.
And they measure the speed at which they travel, these waves.
Mhm.
And they found that the speed is consistent as it travels towards the core of the earth, with the exception of this area above the they call it what do you call the thing around a fireplace?
Den?
Eh?
The den?
A who?
What the that little metal thing that covers it? Are you talking about or
The place where people put pictures
a living room or a den?
around a fireplace.
Where people put pictures around the fireplace.
There's a shelf there. It's the
I'm sorry, man. I don't.
I just came out of the toilet, so I can't think.
I've heard the best
There's the
ideas
core
come.
of the earth, and then it's covered by a lower what? There's an upper and a lower. And
Mantle?
then there's the moho discontinuity. In any event, the moho discontinuity, because of what it's made of, allows the signals to travel through it at a different speed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was figured that it's like an eggshell around the shit. I can't think of the goddamn name.
Well, okay, I'm looking at a picture. It says, I got the asthenosphere, upper mantle.
Mantle. That's what it is.
Okay.
There's a lower mantle that's close to the core.
Mm-hmm.
There's an upper mantle that's not quite as hot as the lower mantle.
Mm-hmm.
And above that is the moho discontinuity. And above that is the sediments at the bottom of the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Sediments are about 3 miles thick. So if one were to go to the moho discontinuity from the vantage point of the ocean, they would have to travel down 3 miles approximately from there before they got to the rock that is the moho discontinuity. However, where there is a continent and a great weight on the continent above it, the moho discontinuity is much lower because it basically gets pushed down by the weight of, say, the Himalayas. Therefore, where below an ocean you might only need to go 3 miles, below the Himalayas you may have to go as much as 35 miles before you get to the moho discontinuity. So you can't think of it as a perfect eggshell shell. You have to think of it more like a slightly deformed golf ball with dimples throughout where there's weight on top.
And the upper mantle, that's not like habitable for
No, it's
too hot.
From what I understand, they use it as an incubator. So a kind of a lab. In the context of explaining it in religion, it would probably fit in the category between heaven and hell.
Oh, purgatory.
You have a purgatory, so it would explain that difference. Hell being the core, the Mohodiscontiuity being heaven, and the upper mantle being this purgatory, where you purge things. Purgatory, you're basically removing things. You pay the penalty by removing things, and that's probably where they do a conversion between the original male structure that they began and then converted to a female outside. So in that kind of laboratory experimentation area, it would be a good place to study. Plus, it could be a place to study life on Venus, for example, that it's hotter than it is on Earth. So you might want to prepare for the visit to Venus by spending time in the upper mantle. But the Mohodiscontiuity, unless this guy was part of a diving team, which I suspect he wasn't, it would only be from reading radio waves. The speed of which changes at that area and then goes back to what it was once it's through it. There is nowhere that I have read that gives a specific number to the thickness of this Mohodiscontiuity, but I found hints or suggestions that it would be approximately 32 miles in thickness. Now, of course, it would be pierced at different places. When a volcano spews lava, it has to go through there, through the Mohodiscontiuity to get to the surface of the Earth. So they have, from what I understand, built a network of tunnels in the shape of a geodesic structure. You know what that is, eh?
Geodesic.
Looks like pentagons linked together, and it was used at the World Fair in New York. A big ball with.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
They had it in Montreal as well, and in Vancouver there was a geodesic dome. Buckminster Fuller, I think, was the architect of that. But in the ones we see on the surface, it's to create a space on the inside of a big ball. In reality, in the Mohodiscontiuity, it's the tunnels that make the spaces, and where the joints between the different tunnels are is where you would have the town squares, the places where people live and work, linked in 5 directions. So it means if there was a volcano that pierced through in one place and broke down a tunnel or two,
Mhm.
it doesn't prevent travel from one place to the other, because in every area you can get around it by other tunnels.
Do you think that the first prototype, the Cro-Magnon, is down there living with the
Well,
Neanderthals?
that's who they brought down with them,
Mhm.
Cro-Magnon. They obviously left Cro-Magnon on the surface of the earth when they went down in southern Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and the relatives of Cro-Magnon, who over the years have become white instead of charcoal gray or brown,
Mhm.
someplace between the African race and the Europeans, uh, changed to be Caucasian over time. Their name, the descendants' name today, is the Grimaldi family,
Grimaldi.
and the head of the clan today is Prince Rainier.
The Ku Klux Klan? You
The
talking about?
Grimaldi family clan
Oh,
is Prince Rainier.
Prince Rainier.
So Princess Grace was married into the Grimaldi family, and she served as the Princess of Monaco until they killed her. She got to know too much.
Yeah, I hear
They drove her car off the cliff.
Oh. Yeah, I hear they kill their own all the time.
Yeah, they have to. Same thing with Princess Diana.
And I guess the Buto, that lady.
Yeah.
So how long? I always hear this thing. Okay, like about they're gonna bring in the new man, the new man. If this thing's gonna be a woman on the outside, why they call it the new man?
Yeah. Well, it's a man on the inside, and it has a piggyback on its shoulders. But what you see on the outside is strictly female. Mind you, a fairly tall female, something like the sisters that play tennis there.
Oh, okay. How long do you think it would take to like populate the world?
Well, their plan is to make 3 versions. We're getting the first version now, which they call a number 10. Then there will be an improved version, just like they do with software on computers. There'll be a 10.1 becomes an 11, and 10.2 becomes a 12. And that basically will have completed the program. Then they got to be sure that we're all done in, and that's done in 2 sessions. We, the Northern Hemisphere, go before 2062. 1,000 years more is left to the Southern Hemisphere. So in 3062, they go. And then there's a break from 3062 to 7500 AD. So that means that on the surface of the Earth, which has to recuperate from the activity that killed all the people up there, there would only be a group of people outside on the northern cap, because everything else in between the northern cap and Antarctica will basically have been destroyed. And those people on the northern cap are going to be the Amish. The Amish need no technology. They don't depend on technology to survive. Their task basically will be to keep the land that is to be agricultural at a later date plowed but not seeded, what we call lie fallow.
So the people who are aware of this, obviously there's going to be some people who are aware of it. They're going to try to go and avoid the.
Well, they all think that they're going to be part of the 144,000 who will be brought into the Mohodiscontiuity to live out their life in happiness and pleasure and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to heaven. That's where heaven is. But in fact, there already is 144,000, and they're not bringing anybody down with them.
How come they don't know this? How can they not know this? Like, I don't.
Because they're greedy, and they are control freaks, and they don't basically spend time on thinking about things that are long term. These agents of the people down below, the ones down below think long term, but their agents on the surface are basically thinking along the lines of instant gratification. What do I get now?
Well, I've seen them. From what I see, the guys up there on top, they plan out like 300 years ahead, 500 years ahead. Even the whole.
No, they are not planning 300 years ahead or 500 years ahead. What they're doing is following instructions.
That's it, really? I thought
Yeah.
Wow.
They follow instructions they get from the Mohodiscontiuity, and then they proceed to implement those instructions based upon the fact that they're going to receive millions of dollars and live a life with yachts and airplanes and that kind of stuff. And the families that grow around them, like the Kennedys and the Bushes and those people.
Oh, I thought those people
there are more important people in Europe than there are here, and more important people in Asia than there are in Europe.
I thought it was going to be run really from like, because being like Europe being like the nucleus, I guess you could say, of it all those families.
Europe will be gone.
But what do you? But I'm talking about like in the next like 10, 20 years.
As we sit here and discuss this, we could leave this world tonight. And the same applies to Europe and Asia. There could be a volcano, a tsunami, an earthquake, rocks falling from the sky. They might set off the collider in France and in Switzerland there and cause a collision that lights the coal seam underground as we speak, and the nova might happen. So there's nobody in the northern hemisphere that has a free pass except those countries that are above the 53rd parallel, which basically means only the Scandinavian countries, Russia, Siberia, Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and Iceland. Apart from that,
seems so.
There's a part in Scotland that may survive, because there are highlands at about the 53rd, 54th parallel.
Oh, man. So,
but all of that area north of the 53rd, 54th parallel is going to rise, because as the part below it goes underwater, you have to compensate in order to keep the balance on a planet with plates. You must have a fixed relationship between below sea level and above sea level. So it means the northern cap, where I'm sitting on, will rise. Continental shield is 1,000 feet below me at where I am here. It will rise to be out above the ground, because it's got to be the roof of something down below. That's what is described in mythology, is that the biggest building in the world becomes exposed. It has a roof of shields. That's why they call this area the Canadian Shield. It goes from Labrador across Hudson's Bay to the Northwest Territories. So it's going to rise. The North Pole is going to rise. There will be no snow in the north, no snow in the south. When you melt all the snow on Earth, sea levels will rise to the tune of about 300 feet. I'm approximately 325 feet above sea level. And somebody planted trees out in front of this property called Sitka spruce. Sitka spruce don't grow in this area. You find them along the coast of the Pacific Ocean in Alaska. So by planting the trees along here, what they were suggesting is that we are going to be close to the ocean here. Be close to the ocean, it would basically mean that the Great Lakes have been converted into the Great Sea. And the St. Lawrence River has widened and is part of that water circuit. It means that the island of Montreal is underwater.
So, and everybody's gonna think this is all God, and He's making us pay for all.
Hey?
That's what people are gonna think. I'm saying, people are gonna think this is all God. This is all, in prophecy or something. And
it's not a prophecy.
No, I know. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying people are going to think, because in the holy books
they wrote the holy book
and they put it in prophecy, and people will accept it and think it's just
they wrote in the holy books a story to match what they're about to do to us, because they know some things we are not told about. And we're not told about Alder Amin, the star that in 7500 AD will be the new northern star replacing Polaris. Alder Amin has a brilliance of 23 times that of our sun. So it will be the second sun, if you will.
I read your email you sent to my other account. This person, Silla Tansu, was this person?
Yeah.
Another one, hermaphrodite or something, or what were you trying to tell me in this?
Well, it said so in the email.
Oh, the troglodyte. It says standard gender wars by proxy.
Yeah. means that they use other people to fight their battles for them. And the type of person is that person who became a politician in Turkey. It's a female for all intents and purposes, but a female that's a crook. And at the end, they can control the crook and remove it when they want.
And how can you tell this just by their name? That tells who they are by their name, the name, the coding in their names.
It's all part of a search that one does through encyclopedias and dictionaries that you learn how to do when you're learning how to learn.
Amen.
You only find out what's really in dictionaries and encyclopedias not by doing the normal stuff of looking up something you know about. What you do is you read it from cover to cover. And then you will know that there are things in dictionaries and encyclopedias that you wouldn't even have thought of asking. So you learn that exists, first of all. That's the basis of learning. That everything is written down somewhere. And all you have to do is find it. But if you don't know, they put things in encyclopedias in places you'd never think of looking, then you don't look for it. But if you've read encyclopedias from cover to cover, you know that format exists, so you go looking for it. And that's what I learned through the coding structure, is how to go find the things that have a relationship from one to the other.
What?
And the basic tool for working with is syllables.
What?
If Hillary has a name, I-L-L.
Yeah, Hell-R-Y.
Okay, and she has those three letters side by side in her name. And you go find other words that have I-L-L beside them. And you make a list of these names. And then you go through looking at the definition given for each of those words that have I-L-L in there. You start to find common denominators, things that keep reappearing as you read the definitions. And then you know it's linked to this I-L-L, because that's the common denominator of all those words. And once you know what it is they're talking about, Parliament Hill, Hillary, that woman in Turkey, all had I-L-L in it. So you're looking for politicians. You're looking for female politicians. Those things would crop up as you start looking through. The city on the hill, Capitol Hill.
Yeah, another thing I'm curious about with the clan mothers, they use the I guess the Cro-Magnon as slaves too, right? And are they?
No. The clan mothers used their own gender. The clan mother was a hermaphrodite.
Yeah.
She could only make females, clones of herself. The Neanderthaler helped her by dividing genders.
They put the...
So the males were the ones who were basically serving the clan mothers, while in the heavy-duty stuff, while the girls were preparing to be clan mothers, learning about babies and that kind of stuff. The reason for making Cro-Magnon was to provide a slave group of slaves that would service the Neanderthaler. Once they broke away from being in contact with clan mothers, they had to find a way to do things for themselves, since they couldn't do it by themselves. And the lessons learned in genetic engineering while making these men for the clan mothers, these males, they then in turn used to manufacture Cro-Magnon who would serve them.
And what span of time did all this happen when they made this?
This was at about the fight with the clan mothers occurred in 58,800 BC. The appearance on the surface of Cro-Magnon was around 40,000 BC. So for 19,000 years, these Cro-Magnon basically served them in caves. As they went deeper and deeper into caves in the area which we today call Somalia. From there, they went into Madagascar on their way to Antarctica. But they left behind in South Africa a number of Cro-Magnon in the southern part of Africa. And from what I'm told is that the country called Mali is where the largest number of these people live. The Berbers would, in fact, then be linked in one way or another to this. And obviously, the Grimaldi family in Europe, in the long run, in Monaco, the name Monaco is, in fact, the second Mona. Whereas the first Mona was the Mona Lisa.
And isn't Mona Lisa, if you scramble it, isn't it?
Mona Lisa has a secret. That's why she's grinning.
Yeah.
And the secret she has is she's not just a woman.
Oh. Okay. So these clan mothers, they died out, right? There's no, from as far as what we know.
No, the clan mothers would, from what I understand, would basically have been mixed in, if that's the word, with Cro-Magnon over time. And it explains why black people are not black anymore. The original people of Africa were black. There are still some. We don't see too many in North America, but there still are some. You know yourself. In your neighborhood, you'll find one or two or three around the corner that are black, real black.
Really, really black. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Not
most of them are closer to brown.
Like me.
Yeah. And then there will be another phase where they're closer to tan. Like Obama, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never seen him in person, so I don't know if the colors we see on TV are real. But that's the hope of the system, and it was the hope of the system when they brought slaves to America, the purpose was not that they needed slaves to do the cotton business. They could have very well left it in India where it was cheaper and they already had it all set up. What they wanted is a lab of mixing white and black.
Oh, that
so
makes
that
sense.
they would create what they call mulatto.
Yeah, they have that in Haiti too. Mulatto people.
And mulatto is the color tan.
Yeah.
That's what they want. So all of this had to be done in the lab, and the U.S. was the lab. Ottawa, by the way, in the conversion of the letters Ottawa, converts to the word mulatto.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Write Ottawa in capital letters, and then find me the M, which is the W that you turn upside down. Find me the U, which is an A, converts to a U. And you have Atto, A-T-T-O.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, when I spoke to Alan Watt a while ago, he told me that maybe he was trying to hide it. But
who you spoke to, Alan Watt?
Yeah, when I spoke to him a while ago.
Yeah, a while ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago? Or?
I spoke to him. Actually, I spoke to him a while ago, and I spoke to him again, like a few days ago. I don't know how he, but I really wanted to bring up the Sufi thing, but I didn't get to bring it up. But he told me this too. He told me that that the codes are they update the codes. So when you update the codes, it's like they update the code so in case people here on the lower level,
those are only communication codes that you update. You don't update the story of the plan. The plan is the plan.
Oh,
and the Desdemona typeface is to tell you what the plan is. Codes on a day-to-day basis are easy enough to update. You get the Smithsonian Institute to give a website that describes volcano activity around the world, and you switch your point of interest to a different volcano, and the letters of the volcano, maybe the first four letters of the volcano, become the code for that period. So there's all kinds of little tricks like that, that different levels of Freemasonry can go to their own trick, because they'd be told that how the code changes as far as they're concerned. And they would go then to that thing on a regular basis. And if they want to speak to somebody and let them know that they're in on the plan, they include the code in their discussion so the other person knows. But that can be made to change on a regular basis. That has nothing to do with the basic plan.
Yeah,
that's
really,
only
really
a
old.
communications code.
Okay. So, I wanna be able to ask this guy a question. I wanna ask him, why is he keeping this from people? Why is he not?
Well, Alan Watt. Read the name.
Well, yeah, Watt is a light bulb.
No, flip the M. Flip the W. Make it an M. Make the A an I. And what do you got?
Mitt.
Mitt, yeah. And what's the major plan for destruction of the Great Lakes area and returning it to the Big Sea? It's the collapse of Michigan. Look at your map, like I told you the other day, and you will see that lower peninsula of Michigan is shaped like a mitt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's basically telling you that he's on the plan. He's a quarrier as opposed to a warrior. He does strip mining.
Strip mining.
That's what they just did in Gaza. That's why they call it the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
They basically clean off the surface. They don't deal with in-depth issues. They deal with surface people. People who are looking and need to be misled.
And then you have, but you know, it's just tough because no people, from what I can see, people would not be able to understand your work
Absolutely not.
If they didn't go through him first. Because I know it's with all the people who are out there, he's probably the most in depth on that level, just telling people the plan, the history, the high story. But then everybody else is like, it's on a certain level. Like you have
everybody that has called me at one time or another has said, "Don't you worry about Alan Watt, using your material?" I said, "From my point of view, I have to look at it this way: is my job made more difficult by the existence of Alan Watt, or is it being made easier?"
It's making it easier.
I teach university. He teaches kindergarten. That may be a little facetious. He may be teaching grade 6. So, but I'm teaching, and I don't have time to teach the lower levels.
Yeah, I know. That's why, and I can understand it, because I don't need you to tell me really the low level. I can do that really on my own.
Yeah, therefore a guy like Alan Watt is helpful. So when he started copying my stuff, did I care? No.
Oh, so maybe he's like in a way helping you, but
I don't really think he ever tried to be helpful to me. I think it's a unintended consequence on his part.
Because the guy doesn't really live lavishly, so
No. I mean, I've seen him in his truck, and there was no floor in the front. I mean, physically, you could put your feet down from the front seat and touch the grass. So whatever money he's making, he's certainly not a millionaire.
So I guess he's doing it for I don't know.
Well, he's got a pig in his neck. All Scottish people got a little piggy in their neck, and Scotland is the most embedded country in the world outside of Israel. So, guys don't walk around in skirts unless they're really programmed. So he's got that, and he hasn't found a way to fight his way out of it. A part of me was Irish. They also wear skirts at times. And a part of me was French. And I'm told that my background is Dutch. So I had an easier time to defeat my opponent internally, even though it took me 47 years, than someone who lives in the middle of the stew, like Scotland.
So how about, what do you say, someone like me? I'm like Haitian, so do I have like?
Well, you're from Haiti, and it suggests that artificial insemination has gone on. It's got AI in the word, and it's connected to it, the I. So you're obviously a descendant of either Africans or Cro-Magnon, or a combination of both.
Whoa. Wow.
Genetically engineered, there is no doubt, because of the AI.
I heard that was a good movie too. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never seen it. Oh, wow.
So artificial is part of you. Take it for granted, the same way as it's part of me. The difference between you and me is you came the African route and I came the Caucasian route. My background probably in on this planet at this time started someplace around Mongolia and came into Europe with what they call the Golden Hordes. And they spread through the northern part of Europe, probably ending up in Holland. And from there, routes were built into France and into Ireland, because both were Catholic-dominated countries. Holland became part of the Protestant realm. So that's how, in the long run, my DNA makes it to Canada. My grandfather on my father's side, from what I'm told, was a farmer in Ireland. And there were battles with the English. And the people who were put in jail for fighting the English, a large number of them were offered an opportunity, if they stopped fighting, that they would be put on a boat and taken to a place called Canada, where they would be located to a city called Bytown, and from there they would build a canal that would link Bytown to the St. Lawrence at Kingston. Bytown's name was then changed to Ottawa, and that Irish group of people came, and 60% remained in the Ottawa region building the canal by hand, while 40% went AWOL and ran up into Quebec and hid out with the Indians in Quebec and married French-Canadian women. So my mother's side is on the French-Canadian side, and my father's side is on the Irish-Canadian side, and they got together, and out of that wedding, 3 children were reborn.
Reborn. Born again.
Genetically engineered.
Yeah, I know in Canada up there, I don't see, every time I go up there, I've never seen, I've seen like one Italian person up there.
One Italian?
Yeah, I don't see a lot of Italian.
Toronto is the second largest Italian city in the world.
Really? Well, Toronto, I'm not really too familiar with Toronto, but when I was in Ottawa, all I see is Somalians and Ethiopians and
Ottawa,
people from Holland, Dutch.
Ottawa and Montreal have a lot of black people.
Yeah, they do.
And
a lot of Haitians. I've seen it.
And Toronto has more Eastern European and Italians.
The people there in Canada, maybe it's just the culture and everything, but they're so different. They're not as I'm saying everybody's still brainwashed like everywhere else around the world, but they don't seem to be like I don't know, like say something like racism or something.
No, Canada is basically the best place on earth to be. You've got the most natural resources and the fewest people. But we're basically caretakers of the property. We're here to pay taxes, to make sure that somebody does the cleanup and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't have the competitive pressures that Americans have. We're not the lab. We're the caretakers for the lab of the future. So they're sending from around the world the people they want here. And since obviously what they want is mulattoes, then you got to get some blacks and some whites and mix them up together and end up with tan. And that's what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with with any color.
No, I don't care. Yeah, I never thought.
So what? Yeah. The difference is, you know, do you have to pay a price because you're one color or another? And in the U.S., black people had to pay a price for being black. They probably still do in most cases.
Yeah, like there's people that still think like you go down south. There's people that still think like, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, this is all media created. You know?
Yeah.
People don't become racists on their own.
You taught that.
Put young kids together and let them play, and they never become racist on their own. It's the media that drove them to that. Now the media can flip-flop.
Now
and all of a sudden say, that's bad.
Yeah. And now I see like white people, like a lot of people like who voted for Obama. It's like, oh, yeah, like they're all taught like it's all their fault, slavery. And they gotta be like little wussies, like, oh, it's. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what did you have to do with slavery?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We have a number of natives in Canada.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Natives, and they tell me the same thing. There's a whole bunch of white people in Canada who are wannabe Indians. I said, I don't want to be an Indian. I don't want to be a black person. I don't want to be a white person. I just want to be me.
Yeah.
And I don't care about some politician or tax collector who says there's a boundary called Canada and I have to be patriotic to that piece of real estate from which they collect taxes. Bullshit.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, they created that. They gave people the whole identity, like even though the border is B order, the order of the B, and I've seen a little documentary that was showing like when you go along the border, it's all Masonic obelisks.
It makes no sense to me yet. You know, I was brainwashed for so many years that when at the Olympics somebody wins a gold medal and they play Canada, I sense the little piggy inside of me pulling on the chain that says, make him feel good, you know, make him feel good. But in my mind, I know this is all bullshit. Not for us. The only reason they want patriots is so they go dive so they can collect taxes.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody is trying to impact their ability to collect taxes, they got to have a war to stop it. And they need people who are going to volunteer to go on that war. So inside each person is this little patriotic pig who keeps pulling on the chain and says, it's your turn, Frig that.
Yeah. I remember when I went to Canada one time when I think it's because from the media, like the women, they're like, oh, you're from New York, and because all this stuff about New York guys and my accent, and they thought that, okay, oh, you're from New York, so you're supposed to be like this slick gangster or something, and I'm like, no, but now I think a lot of people around the world don't like Americans.
I had a guy come here for a course, he's a black guy. From New York. He used to work on Wall Street, and his girlfriend, and they were shocked at basically at my attitude towards race. they couldn't believe that. To me, it made no difference, and they spent, you know, much of the time they were here trying to dig out of me that somewhere there was a racist in there.
That's that American mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just kind of laugh, you know. I don't care. If I was checkered, I wouldn't care as long as I could be me.
Yeah. And I see what they do with over there in Canada with the Somalians. Because when I went up there, I seen, like, you know, beautiful Somalian women, and people tell me, "Oh no, don't talk to them. They're, you know, people like look down on them." I'm like, what? I'm like, what difference does it make if they're Somalian or not?
Gypsies talk like that, you know. Don't talk to her. She's black. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Where do you think you come from?
Yeah. I see that with, you know, I learned this too, like how like Jewish people in Israel, how they treat the Arabs. they turned right into what they hated before. Like they turned right into the Nazis.
Yeah,
Same mentality.
they threw out from a blood bank. They threw out all the blood that came from black people. How crazy can you be?
Yeah, I've heard that too. And from you before, you said that Jewish was a way of saying that
you only wish
those are the people. Yeah. Yeah. And they have all these families.
Gratification is what they're looking for. You know, if everybody loves you, they're going to give you things. You know, that's what they're really saying. Is I don't give a shit they are saying about other people. I just want them to give me. Yeah.
You know?
And it seemed at one time that if you were white, you got more than anybody else. And I imagine in places that's true. But, you know, I've been to England and I've been to France, and those were two of the worst colonial powers in the world. And it's not everybody in England who benefited from the raping of Africa. It's probably 2%.
Yeah.
And the rest of the people that I met were working for 35 pounds a week, about $70 a week. You know? So,
yeah, I see that. Most people in England too, they lived in misery, and
the tax collector knows his business. He understands that he needs a vast workforce called the middle class. And he needs a small group of rich people for them to aspire to, and he needs a small group of poor people for them to fear dropping into that category. And he keeps everybody in check based on that. They'll do work as long as they either hope to get out of the workforce by becoming rich or stop at least from falling backwards into becoming street or bag ladies. You know. That's the plan. That's the plan, and it runs everywhere in the Western world. In Africa and in Asia, there has been much more alignment on the side of being poor or being very rich, with very little middle class in between. It doesn't really work. All you got to do is look at their development. Didn't work. When you look at North America and you got roads and bridges and sewers and toilets and all of those things, you know that the tax collector found out the secret to having people do their work with the least amount of trouble.
Yeah, people
and
think
it's called freedom.
Yeah, you see over here people pay their tax. It's like you're a good American if you pay taxes, income tax. And technically it's illegal. Technically it's unconstitutional. technically, but
I know all of that story.
yeah, everybody. Yeah.
If you think you're free,
You work harder.
you are a perfect slave.
Yep.
Because in fact you are free. You don't cost them a cent. They get you for nothing. You give them your labor for nothing the minute you believe you're free.
Yep.
And all they want is to collect a toll off of everything you do, 15% or whatever. At the end, they don't care what you do with the 85% or 75%. What they want is their cut. And if they get their 15 or 20% off everybody in the entire solar system, they'll feel they've accomplished a good day's work. And they can sit in the tavern and giggle at us.
That's what they get out of it, a good laugh.
Yeah.
Because when I look and read around me, all the code, all the letter, it's a lot of they joke. It's a lot of because
in a way it's funny. It's not really not funny because it's a serious matter for people with limited abilities to do certain things, whether it's enforced through race or they came into this world with a less in the way of talent than other people might have, that kind of stuff. But in fact, it's a comedy. It's a comedy that is being played out on a stage that people can't see.
Yeah, I've seen so many. They rub it in your face, and I've heard in the high cultic circles, like this is part of like the rituals is to get you to.
How many times have you heard on TV lately that they had to help the bankers because they weren't lending money? And it was 800 billion one time and 700 billion the next time, and they're still not lending money, so we're going to give them more. And people sit there and say, well, they have to do it.
Yeah, like when I go out, when I do go out and I hear people's conversations, oh my God, it's all just programmed conversations. They're like, this is one conversation I heard some guy say. He goes, well, we're in a bad situation, but here's the question: can they fix it? And I'm sitting there like, fix it, man. This is all engineered, man.
They made it happen. Of course they can fix it. They just stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't want it. This is all part of the plan, Big Law's plan. But
in any event, my friend, it's time for bed.
Oh, okay.
I get up early.
Oh.
I got to live what's happening on a day-to-day basis, and most of the things that are important aren't happening here. So if I get up at people's normal time, I get to hear about what happened from people who had time to manipulate the information.
Oh, you talking about people from outside of the world and different times? Okay.
So if I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I get to find out what happened at 8 o'clock in London. And by the time it's 8 o'clock here, the story has changed completely.
Yeah, I hate what you say. I have friends on the other side.